All right, welcome everyone. It's Doug with the LincolnList.com. This is the stock market week review for the 27th of April. This is the last week of the month. It's the money week. So, if you started out the beginning of the month and you had all these goals and dreams of how this whole month was going to go down for you, and it's just not quite where it is, or you just seem to be stuck in that same rut, you just can't take the next step to get to the next level and really become the trader that you want, take a look at the LincolnList.com. Take a 14-day free trial to our live trade room. Consistency has been a major theme for us all year. Only 3 losing days the entire year. That's less than 1 a month. So come visit the LincolnList.com if you're looking to go to the next level. We'll pick up where we left off last week, as we do with these week reviews. We'll take a look at the SPY. Still got the lines drawn up, and finally this was the week, so to speak, that we broke out of this short-term resistance channel of 211. I kind of thought myself that once we popped through that, we would see a little bit more love, for lack of a better word, a little bit more excitement there. But it just really didn't do it. It's just sort of melting up, if I could use that word. It just seems like it's going up. It's continuing to go up. I expected a little bit more explosion. I think with this look here, we're going to at least challenge this 212.26 and maybe the all-time high print up here of 212.83. We'll just see how it works at the very beginning portions of the week. But we now have broken out of the short-term channel that we've been stuck in for the last 30 to 40 trading sessions. So now that we're above there, let's take a look at this little 212.26 and 212.40s. Now, there's a lot of stocks, as I've been saying, it really seems to be now, especially over the last year, that looking at the overall SPY and making a judgment call as to the stock positions you have, it just doesn't seem to really work that much anymore. Yes, it has something to do with it, but we're starting to see stocks move independently and pretty much have that honey badger mentality. They're just going to do whatever the hell they want whenever they want. So if a stock is under Momo and some of these stocks are running, it doesn't matter if the market's in crash mode. They seem to just continue to find ways to go up. One of the stocks that's really on the top of this list has got to be WUBA. This reminds me a lot of what we were seeing with Cyber CYBR, not this week, but what we saw in its original run when it really got that heavy Momo. This is one of these stocks, and when you look at it, you've got a big old price increase from this breakout from $53, $54 all the way up to pressing 80 now. So, you've got a significant price change in this stock, and we're looking at almost $30 in the last 9 trading sessions. Only one little itty bitty teeny weeny red day in there, getting a little bit parabolic, as I did last week when we talked about VLTC. And I published a video. If you didn't get a chance to see it, just go into the featured section of the website. It talks about blow off tops. It would really help this stock if it had its blow off top. Even though it is going up, you're getting a little bit of parabolic. It just hasn't had that everybody's lost their mind day. The volume has still been pretty light. I started into a very, very small short, so I'm kind of working off of 80, maybe 82s before I go in for a heavier ad. But definitely the top priority going into the week is to get some WUBA and move into a really, really heavy short position. Every morning, I only got a couple of days that's shown in my top chart here. But if you go back and you look at the last 4 or 5 days of action, almost every single morning the stock is going parabolic. If we start to look like that Monday morning, it's really going to be, I think, a great play, a good opportunity to get into it. Again, when I mentioned VLTC, we go back and we take a look at that stock before it made its downtrend. You had that blow off top, but the day that it did fall apart, this day that it did really retrace, it did the same thing. It went really parabolic in the morning, put that one last squeeze on, and then it kind of rolled over. Now, I'm not really comparing WUBA as far as the ultimate of parabolics at what we saw in VLTC. I mean, you don't have the steepest of RSIs in there on the daily. You only got an 80. There is a little bit of room technically, but we'll see what we can do here with WUBA. Definitely tops on the list for shorting next week. We'll see if we can zero in the right kind of entry point and make this thing really nice. Okay, enough about WUBA. Let's move on to something else. Now, the something else is AGEN. This is a pretty good ramp, obviously coming off of earnings. And I'm a fan of shorting ramp up stocks and stocks that really go parabolic. These are based off of mainly the daily, but intraday, as again, you see so many of these great ramps like this. These are just my favorite. Number one, because I'm slow, is like molasses. My brain is so slow sometimes. And once these things start, I'd love to buy breakouts, but by the time I catch on that it's a breakout, it's like, oh wow, look, it's already going. And I just have no other choice but to kind of take advantage of that counter move. That's how I got started in all of this. These are beautiful moves, and you kind of have that matching in the daily like you had here intraday. Really beautiful looking ramp, but you've got an 82 RSI. Love 90s. That's a really good sweet spot to start going in. You're parked at around the whole number of 7. As always, if you can somehow squeeze that little loving momentum, like we talked about VLTC doing it, hopefully WUBA does it. Every short that I look at going into the morning, I want the para of the para. I want these things going, launching out of the gate, getting that euphoric, especially if you have an overbought daily and it's already in a 2 to 3 day run. If you're able to follow that third or fourth day with a massive para in the morning, boy, you're really putting yourself in a good spot to capitalize on a short. Now, sometimes these stocks will do what a VLTC did, and they'll go red. They'll actually turn around and go red. Now, that doesn't always happen. I mean, most of the time, they'll make a nice pullback, but it's so quick and fast that you can really pick up some serious money. Sometimes they're good 60 cents, $1.50. So you put in 300 or 400 shares, maybe even 500. You're making some pretty good money on these. Getting back to business, I would love to see a little more from this. Maybe you got a couple of days going. You're starting to ramp where you get some pretty good movement, and the last 2 days have been solid. Probably would want to see 8 on this. Maybe a little closer to 9. Maybe just one more strong morning like this, and then just try to mess around with a little bit of a short and see if we can pull it off. That's providing that there's nothing else available. You got other stocks that might be ripping off of PRs or earnings reports or something else that might put you in a better position. AGEN, like this one. WUBA, I love. AGEN, I like. So kind of keep that in mind there. We're going to look at it and see what we can do. Same way with YUM. Kind of like up in the air here on this one. I like the way this chart looks on the daily as well. You see the ramping happen here, and maybe we can see that one. This one didn't even break the intraday 10 moving average, and that's just like mass grinder mode. So first way to look at this, if you can kind of draw a trend line up here, which is basically your moving average, I think if it was able to finally break trend, which it really hasn't done in over a day, that would be your first sign of a legit pullback. And again, when I'm talking about pullbacks, I'm not talking about destruction or panic. I'm talking about something, a good retracement where you can take advantage of some short-term overbought conditions where people just get a little bit ahead of themselves. And what happens in this is these people will chase into these prices, and they kind of know when they're going in. I mean, we've all been there, right? You kind of go into the trade and you're like, oh, I think I'm chasing this in a little bit. And as soon as it pulls back, you kind of panic a little bit, you dump the position, and you get these nice little switches in stock price. This one here has held its gap, and these are very strong stocks when they gap up on earnings. Like you got one hand, a KMX, for example, that gaps up on earnings and spends the next 10 days filling back in the gap. You have a lot of stocks that do that, but then you have a handful like this that will break out and make some fresh highs. This is nice. Today's action in this was really, really good. It's yummy, pun intended. But we've got some really nice grinding action. As with the other two, just go ahead and throw us out some really strong morning action on Monday, and you're going to make me possibly a happy trader because I'm going to go in. Now, I might lose on these, but I think I would be pretty happy if those setups happened. I'd take my chances saying that, it would be a hell of a morning right there. So you got some really good stuff here. I think with all these WUBA, AGEN, and YUM, I'm definitely all short those. I really want to focus those as short only plays. Now, if I miss some of the paras and I'm unable to do it, then maybe there's a chance to buy them. But for right now, my focus will be at least through the morning period of Monday. We'll be focusing on great entries for these and possible short setups. And if I had to rank them, I got to say WUBA's on top. WUBA's the babe. AGEN, AGEN, is probably third in this mix, and I'll give YUM number 2. So WUBA, YUM, AGEN in that order would be kind of where my focus is. Anyway, none of this stuff makes any difference at all, because when you do these, it's just really just trying to forecast the future, right? It may not even happen. I mean, a lot of times, I'd say probably 95% of the time, the stuff that you focus on and you set up for yourself on your watch list never come to fruition, because there's always something else that's going on. Like for us today, just out of nowhere, this SHOO, SHOO, was the biggest trade of the day. I'd never heard of this company before. It just goes parabolic. I don't really like to necessarily short earnings, but when you get these ridiculous, I just like a 97 RSI, it's like way up here in the moon. You get up in here, it's a great short. This thing drops. We pick up well over $1, $1.50 on this play. hey, you never know when these are going to show up. Almost every day it seems like somebody's throwing themselves into the mix. So when you do these watch lists, that's one. It's great to prepare. But on the other hand, the point I'm trying to make is you have to consistently look at these patterns and rehearse these patterns, because as traders what we don't have is we don't have the beauty of time. We don't have that luxury. It's like sometimes you just clicking through your watch lists, or you got scanners running, and all some shows up like this, and you really don't have a lot of time as a day trader to sit here and think about what you're actually seeing. I mean, you got to react, and the more repetition that you put into your job and career of trading these patterns and then studying them at night, you'll start to get a lot more comfortable with how this works. So that's one of the things with trading. You don't have time. Same way you don't really pick and choose when you're going to make money in the market, because you are kind of a prisoner to the market. You have to wait for the market to develop opportunity. Just because it's open doesn't mean there's always going to be trading opportunities. Most of the time the market's open, there isn't a lot of opportunities. Most of the opportunities that you're going to have are going to be like a shoe. They're going to happen at the very beginning portions of the market open. You got some hot stuff maybe happening towards the close, but for the most time, most of the middle parts of the market, there's not a whole lot going on. Sure, you might pick up a few here and there, but overall, it's not always that way. You got a kind of a little bit of a lesson here. I started out with a watch list, and I kind of got right off track here a little bit with a little educational rant. I guess my point is saying this. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you have choices to make. And if you're sitting there and you're continuing to do the same things over and over again, expecting different months, you're going to have trouble. If you're struggling and you're not getting to where, or you just don't think you're doing good enough, maybe you're just right there. There's all kinds of different people probably listening to this list. You know, if you're right there on the cusp and you just can't get over that hump, and that would make all the difference. Maybe it's just one or two trades. That's all it is, one or two trades. If you could clean up your entries and clean up your exits, or maybe not take your profits so quick, everything would change. Maybe you're way off. I mean, you're just sitting here, and every move you think there's like a joke. It's like a joke, like the market's watching you, waiting for you to enter a stock just so it can slam on you the moment you push the button. I mean, there's all different phases, but if you're struggling, take a look at the lincolnlist.com, see our educational format, see how we find stocks, how we trade stocks, how we decide what profits and stops should be. See if that's the kind of stuff that might get you to another level, or really just clean up and tighten up some of your trading. If not, as always, thanks for listening to me rant about stocks and half about just ranting in general. You guys have yourselves a great week of trading. Finish off April strong. As always, if you need me, you know how to get in touch with me, thelincolnlist.com. Take care of yourself and enjoy your day.